our insight today is about freedom. Now, let us take a high-level view over the next few minutes of freedom, because each one of us has our own unique understanding of what it means to be free. What is freedom? Let us look at the definition of this word from the published literature. The first one says, freedom is the quality or state of being free. Nice overall blanket statement. The second says, freedom is the condition of being free from restraints, especially the ability to act without control or interference by another or by circumstance. The next one says, freedom is the condition of not being in prison or captivity. The other one says, freedom is the condition of not being controlled by another nation or political power. It is political independence. So from these four, we can already see that from these definitions, we can see that freedom is a very varied and a potentially elusive concept that is hard to nail down. So let us come up with a definition of our own. What do I think freedom is? I would say that from a holistic level, freedom is a state of being where you can be who or what you are under all circumstances. I will repeat that. Freedom is a state of being where you can be who or what you are under all circumstances. Now, from this definition, you can see that freedom of this holistic nature is difficult to achieve, because every step of the way, life demands us to deviate from who and what we are. Or else we would quickly become, all of us would become unpopular outcasts, accused of hurting everyone in our spheres, and in some cases being downright uncivilized for those of us who are total free spirits. So we're not really free. The bottom line is that there is a very high likelihood that we may be unable to comply with this holistic definition because of how our world expects us to be, to think, and to behave, and often to believe. So let us visit freedom from a perspective that perhaps we may not have considered before in its entirety. Let us take a view of life in this world from 35,000 feet above. Now, you've all looked out of a plane at 35,000 feet. The perspective of what lies below seems very different from that vantage point. So let us look at life from this level for a few moments. It's interesting how it looks. And let us look at a story of drop. And this is a light-hearted story, but it brings the message across to us quite clearly and quite powerfully. So there's a soul called Drop, like the word that makes the word droplet. So he is Drop. And Drop is going to be born into our world. Now, Drop, before his manifestation, is absolutely a free-flowing spirit. He lives in the ocean of infinite light, from where he is a droplet in a limitless reservoir, the ocean of infinite droplets, all together as one. So Drop comes from pure wonder. He does not know the concept of freedom because there is no contrast to freedom where he is at present. In our world, we learn concepts through opposites. For example, to know light, we are shown darkness. Or to know freedom, we are shown captivity in different forms and ways. Where Drop is before birth, there is no such thing as absence of freedom. So for him, freedom is a totally unknown concept. Drop flows with the waves. He flows with the rivers of light. He becomes and he unbecomes, to and from whatever states he chooses. So it is hard for us to even start to imagine the extent and purity of freedom that drop emanates from and represents. So let us call his state the ocean, in the ocean, ultimate freedom. Okay? That's where he comes from. But drop does not know what that really means, because if you are water, you are water. That's all there is to it. You cannot know what it is not to be water. So drop has chosen to come to this material world to learn from its university of contrasts. Every school of learning in our world has a certain hallmark. For example, when you go to do an MBA at Harvard, you learn everything through what is called case studies. So you go through a case study of a company, you go through a story of how decisions were made, what their outcomes were, and then you take that apart and you learn the principles of business from the case study. So Harvard takes a case study approach. Many MBA schools take the case study approach. So for souls that choose to come to earth, and that is our world, the style of learning they will receive is through contrasts. And the second hallmark of the university of the material world is problems. Every soul that comes here faces problems without exceptions. None of us is exempt from problems. Take a look at your life. I mean, from the moment you and I and all of us were born and became conscious and became intelligent enough to know what was going on, we have encountered problems. From small things like a broken doll to big catastrophes that we face in life much later. Problems come to all of us in different ways, shapes, and forms. And each one of us has unique type of problems. The problems I face are not the problems you face. We may look at someone who is very wealthy and can buy everything he or she wants, or someone who is royalty, or someone who is famous, and think, oh wow, they have everything. But no, they don't. Their problems come to them in different forms, and they are challenged, either in their relationships, in their marriages, in their friendships, in the media, through health. Everybody is challenged with their own types of problems. So there's nobody on this planet, on this world, that is free from problems, because that is a hallmark of the university we have all subscribed to. Contrasts, and the second is problems. Which is why when I look at my problems, and sometimes, I consider them severe, but I am grateful for my problems, because I know it could be a lot worse. For example, I may face a business problem, I may face a scientific problem, or I may face issues that make it difficult for me to go forward with what I'm trying to go forward with. But then I ask myself, what is the alternative? I haven't lost a child, because that would be completely catastrophic and destroy me. And I went through that experience at the beginning of this year, losing who was very much like my child at the age of 36. And so I've experienced that pain and that catastrophic feeling, and that the way it turns your world upside down. So for me, when I look at my minor problems every day or things going wrong, I'm grateful. I said, thank you. If that is all I have to face today, I'm luckier. And I'm happier than 99.9% people in this world, because I've seen the type of problems people do face. So I embrace my problems with gratitude. And I also know that it is a hallmark of why I am here in this world. So there's no way to duck it. In my third book, called Towards Zero Conflict, I have an interesting short story which I'll just encapsulate for you here. But it's a story about three people at the very same present moment. One of them is in New York, and she is at the plastic surgeon's. And she looks at this pimple on her face. Her name's Mary Carmen. She looks at the pimple on her face and says, "Oh my God, this makes me look so ugly. My life, my world is coming to an end." And at that very same moment, there's a young man called Richard in Los Angeles who's waking up from anesthesia only to be told by the doctor that during the accident he had, they've had to amputate his limbs. And he says, "Oh my God, my world has come to an end." And that very same moment in Congo is Jonathan, who's watched his whole family die from Ebola virus in front of him every few hours. And he awaits his turn. And he says, "Oh my God, my world is coming to an end." All three consider their problems huge. All three consider their plight the worst that can be. But if you ask Mary Carmen if she wants to swap places with the young man Richard who lost his limbs, she will say, "No, I'll stick to the pimple." Or Richard would say, "No, I wouldn't want to trade places with Jonathan where I watch my family die of this Ebola virus." So we have to contextualize our problem. When we get immersed in them and we lose focus from what they are there to show us, we lose freedom. So remember, problems is the second hallmark of life. It's a hallmark in the curriculum of our university. So looking at our world from 35,000 feet above, we see all of humanity below us, learning life lessons through contrasts and learning life lessons through problems. And in all this, souls that develop the right approach are able to appreciate the beauties of this world. So the third hallmark is discovery of beauties through unveiling the ordinary. Discovery of beauties through unveiling the ordinary. That's the third part of our curriculum, i.e., what is ordinary appears obvious or uninteresting. What is ordinary is basic. And unveiling that and finding what is extraordinary in it is part of our curriculum too. And we have enough distractions coming from Hallmark 1 and 2 to stop us from achieving 3, but it is also something we all have to accomplish and experience. So it's like unveiling a pearl that lies within a shell, which appears lifeless and totally unremarkable. But if you open that pearl, you realize what an amazing discovery you made, how extraordinary that pearl is. So again, that's the third hallmark of life. Do not ignore and walk by what appears unremarkable, for it may have the greatest jewel you'll ever see, the extraordinary. Third one. So if Drop were looking at the prospectus of this University of Material Life, he would see marketing pieces on learning through contrast. That'd be marketing that very well to him. Learning through problems. Discovery through unveiling the ordinary or unremarkable. And finally, hallmark number 4, which is knowing and living with your true self in an environment of pure illusions. Knowing and living with your true self in an environment of pure illusions. These are the 4 hallmarks of our curriculum. And this, my dear friends, is our world. When seen from above, 4 major programs we all signed up for. And here we are, living 24/7 in this program. It is delivering to us exactly what we signed up for. So we have absolutely nothing to complain about. No one to blame for our misfortunes. And the unsuspecting Drop is about to find out. A great soul once said, and I paraphrase, "Don't let the pleasures and wonders of this world fool you. It is truly a very difficult place. It can also be a very bad place. It can be a prison." So now, Drop, the droplet of the ocean infinite, goes through his process of transformation in preparation for the world of contrasts. Now here is an important point to note. Before he manifests, he is told by his Creator that while everything will appear to him to be lost, in reality, he will have lost nothing. Nothing will have changed. He will always be who he is, and what he is, the eternal droplet of light. And he is reminded of that. That is his real self, that no material world or no circumstance can ever change. He is reminded that. He is assured that his real self will remain totally untarnished while he is in this journey, untarnished by the illusions he is about to experience. So with that, Drop says, okay, I'm ready to go, but he knows he must guard against how much he gets sucked in and consumed by these illusions. This reminds me of when we take kids today to an amusement park, and they put on a helmet with these special goggles and experience a game in the virtual world. They're not really the characters in the game, even though during the game they feel like they are. And when they take off the helmet, they go back to being who they really are. I mean, about 10 days ago, we attended Global Encounters in Dubai. And there was a very nice part in the AKDN pavilion, which, there was a lovely lady who made sure that all the young ones got to put on this helmet and go on a virtual tour of whatever they were showing them. And kids were waiting, and she made sure everybody got a chance. So our grandson got onto it, and it was quite hilarious watching him because he was wearing this helmet, and now he felt like he was in this virtual world, and he started moving his hand, and he was trying to push a wall away from him, and his actions were quite interesting and funny. But he was in this world, and it was real. And then when we removed the helmet, he resumed being himself. And we asked him how it was, and he said, that was really cool. That's where we all are. So Drop doesn't get to do that. He doesn't get to remove his helmet until he leaves this amazing new university he's about to experience. None of us are able to remove this helmet until we leave, unless we find a way through what I'll talk about later to see who we really are. So coming specifically to freedom, let us see how this University of Life shows Drop the absence of freedom. Let's go through how his curriculum unfolds. Firstly, Drop is of the infinite. He has no sense of what it means to be restricted in his dimensions of awareness. His awareness is total, which he can project into infinite dimensions. But in this university, he is sized down to only 3 dimensions: length, width, and height. And for the next 65 years, Drop has to live with this incredible restriction, from the dimensionless down to 3 dimensions. What a downgrade. Now remember, he was assured that his real self would remain ever capable, as it was before his birth here, as it will be after. And we have to remember that point as we go through his story. So in reality, Drop can still project his awareness into infinite dimensions if he can consciously differentiate between illusion and reality. If he can learn to break out of the illusions being thrown at him and live consciously with his spiritual dimension that remains ever unchanged, it is his greatest strength. But Drop will soon forget this important fact. So good old Drop has now shrunk to 3-dimensional awareness, a massive loss of freedom. That's number 1. Number 2, Drop, who has incredible 99 senses, which can keep expanding in whatever way he chooses, which makes his senses infinite, is now suddenly reduced to only 5 senses: sight, touch, taste, smell, and hearing. Another huge loss of freedom, but the university is prepping him. Next, Drop goes through severe levels of physical restriction. He finds himself confined in this human body. And what a shock it is for him when he experiences being tightly confined in a womb for 9 months. And when he finally breaks free after birth, he is so elated. Free at last, he thinks, because those 9 months have made him forget that he is actually now reduced to living within a physical body that comes with endless restrictions and limitations. He is absolutely not free. This reminds me of a story of a prisoner. And I can see Drop quite clearly in this. And in this story, there's a prisoner who is always protesting and complaining and asking for a new mattress. And he keeps screaming and banging away, and for weeks and months, and the prison guards all got tired of him. And one day the head of the prison came in and took away his mattress and his bed. Now he had nothing. And so now he's protesting the loss of his bed. And he keeps screaming that he's lost his bed. He's no longer asking for a better bed. He just wants his own bed, and he keeps screaming and protesting. And a few months later, the governor of the prison says, fine, give him his bed back. They gave him his bed back. He was happy and grateful. So he got what he already had before, but he forgot what he had, what his problem was. And that's where Drop is now. So while Drop possesses everything, his 9 months in the womb, with all its restrictions, make him forget all that. And he settles for being in a restricted physical body like the prisoner does in the story. So my dear friends, the physical body poses major challenges and restrictions. As we all know, it takes away a majority of our freedom. And we all face them while we are in human embodiment. So I won't expand further here because we know what they are. So for Drop, his physical body is another significant loss of freedom. That's number 3. So you can see how the stage of contrast is being set by the university for Drop to live through to know what absence of freedom is. Next, Drop is given a computer gaming program like the one our grandson experienced at the Global Encounters that will show him all the illusions of life in this university. We can call it the gaming helmet. That is his material mind, a gaming helmet, based on a very mischievous and unruly computer program, if we can put it in those terms, that gets more and more powerful as one succumbs to it. So while the mind is his potent tool that he can use to his benefit, Drop is also prone to being consumed by it. So consumed that it can become his master. Therefore, he can find himself in this amazing quandary where the slave can become the master. If I said to you, you say you're holding a disk, a computer disk, and if I were to say to you that that computer program of 3D illusions you're holding in your hands can become your master, what would you do? You would laugh at me, so I lost it. Because you control the program. It is in your hand. It does not control you. You can load it in your computer and you can remove it as you wish. You call the shots. However, the mind is such a powerful program that it can control us if we let it. And today that has sadly become our reality in this world. The slave controls the master. So Drop, the great infinite soul, is the master, but he is now going to be ruled by a tool he is given, the mind. It can be a superb tool if used correctly, as long as he does not let it govern him. Once again, he was cautioned before birth, and he always has to remember that his real self, his spiritual dimension, must never be forgotten, for that is his true identity and power. But Drop is going to forget this for sure, until the day something causes him to awaken again to his true reality. And a lot of us have lived through that, and we have been awakened. So my dear friends, the mind is another major restriction for Drop. Another loss of freedom like all other contrasts. Like all other contrasts, the mind can be his best tool or it can become his master. Slave and master, another contrast. We now know that the mind is programmed to take away Drop's freedom. As we said, it's part of showing him contrast. So it's programmed to take away Drop's freedom as much as it can, so that he can fully experience the contrast between freedom and lack of freedom or captivity. Now, that's how he learns to appreciate real freedom. So how does his mind show him this contrast? Let's look at a few examples. Number one, through the golden and most dangerous word, which is can't. C-A-N-T, can't. I can't do this. I can't do that. He can't do this to me or others. They can't do this. The world can't operate this way. This golden word can't. So the word can't is a powerful broom that sweeps away freedom, because its very essence is restrictive, and we all use it freely. But it's sweeping away freedom. It's such a powerful broom. My dear friends, if you take time to monitor your own thoughts, you will easily see the minute you think can't, possibilities will disappear, restrictions will appear, and freedom disappears. Try it. You'll see it for yourself. And as we live in the cage of the thought can't, we feel so tied up and often helpless. And that, my dear friends, is self-induced loss of freedom. Self-induced. Look at how President Obama achieved what was considered impossible. A person of color becoming the President of the United States. How did he do this? He rallied the nation together with the slogan, "Yes, we can," and unleashed a powerful sense of confidence and freedom that swept him right into the impossible, which is the Oval Office. So remember, I can, always I can, not I can't. A simple but immensely powerful shift to freedom through pure vocabulary and power of thought. Next, Drop is a being of infinite possibilities, and yet his mind only shows him the impossible. So the word impossible is another big broom that sweeps away freedom. These brooms take away Drop's confidence, because loss of freedom creates loss of confidence. And that is a very unhappy place for any of us to be, a very unhappy place to live in. And we have experienced it. And sadly, people are experiencing it more and more today. So the third illusion of the mind is to take away Drop's confidence. Next, Drop is a being of clarity, absolute clarity. So the mind throws dark clouds all over him, making him obscure. These dark clouds come from confusing thoughts, irrelevant thoughts, and invocation of memories that really don't belong in his present moment. But they are forced into his present as clouds of obscurity. Drop has a powerful memory, and it can be his greatest tool in this university. But his mischievous mind selectively uses his memory to bring in thoughts that can throw him off and derail him. They have the power to consume him by recalling deep-rooted past experiences that can only become totally misleading for what he is trying to achieve in the present. So dark clouds and confusion take away Drop's clarity and hence his freedom, and the mind is a master at doing that. Like his memory, Drop's mind also shows him possibilities of what can happen in the future, because his mind is highly intelligent. It's a great program. So whilst this can be a great tool if used correctly, it can also be a big source of dark clouds that the mind can spread throughout Drop's consciousness. It shows him worries. It shows him fear. And Drop gets completely consumed by these powerful forces, making him unsure, unclear, worried, and afraid. All these are brooms that sweep away his freedom, and yet none of them are real, because they live in a future that may or may not ever happen, may never transpire. Next, as we saw, problems are a hallmark of the university curriculum. Drop faces problems through circumstances, relationships, love, lots of problems in his love life, economic difficulties, survival challenges, health issues, and more. In all these circumstances, the mind creates more dark clouds that show him only the worst sides of every coin. And so this drags his spirit down to new laws, robbing him of his freedom at every step. And that's what his mind aims to do, if allowed to govern. If Drop used his spiritual being as his lead, he would have clarity to see through all these clouds at play, and he could sweep them away, allowing him to see and experience life that enables him to unveil the hidden beauties and see the extraordinary in the ordinary. Remember, that's part of the university curriculum. So the lesson here is think about what you think. Recognize that your mind is a mischievous tool, like a rambunctious child. Govern it well, and don't get sucked in by its smokes and mirrors. Important lesson. And Drop will learn this. Next, to enable Drop to experience life in a most wholesome way, Drop is endowed with a powerful emotional body, a body that enriches his experiences with feelings and emotions, making them wholesome and complete. Every experience, if you take the thoughts and you take the event and you build in all the emotions you feel, that completes the experience. So he's given a beautiful, powerful emotional body. Remember, one of his curriculum items is to unveil the hidden beauties in this world, and love is one of those incredible beauties that he seeks to experience. So his emotional body is here to facilitate his quest for love, for example. It is also there to enable him to express and live the qualities of his real self, such as kindness, empathy, generosity, love, happiness, contentment, and more. These are all dimensions of his true self that he seeks to express and live with during his journey, because that's how he can achieve a truly fulfilling journey. But like all things in the curriculum, each one of these have their contrasts, such as cruelty, being miserly, greed, hatred, unhappiness and sadness, cruelty and anger, and more. So now, Drop has this beautiful emotional body that is to help him express his positive states of being, but it also comes with dangerous contrasts. And these contrasts are yet another huge source of dark clouds that can totally imprison him in a very sad, unhappy, and unfulfilled state with no freedom. So we can see how vulnerable Drop is to his mind and his emotional body. But let us not forget, they are sources of illusions. None of them are real. So what tools does Drop have to stay clear of the dark clouds and experience a fulfilling journey in this world? And with that fulfillment, of course, comes enlightenment. What tools does he have? Let's look at some of them. So, let's look at the tools that Drop has to live in what we call the correct lane of life, the correct lanes of life, where his greatest asset, his freedom, are protected and prevalent. Because with freedom, he can achieve anything he wishes to. Remember, he is a being of infinite possibilities that has been stripped of his core strength, which is his freedom. Let us explore some of his tools. Number one, he has been endowed with a powerful intellect, which is the gateway to his real self, his spiritual being. Now, as I've explained in previous webinars, the mind has three levels. We have the lower level mind, which makes basic decisions for survival, like I'm hungry, I go to the fridge, I get a meal, hunger satisfied, problem over. Then you've got the higher level mind, which makes wider decisions with a lot more inputs, drawing upon wisdom, drawing upon experience, like where should we live, what career should I follow, where should my children go to school, what should I do, what strategies should I adopt in situations A, B, C, or D. Those come from the high level mind. Then there is the third level, which is the intellect, which is the interface between the mind and the higher self being the soul, that droplet of light. That drop is the ever-knowing, the ever-potent. That is where the intellect connects the mind to. And through his intellect, Drop can gain all the virtues that he needs to turn his life around and experience the beauties that await him to be experienced. For example, what can he get from his intellect? Number one, inspiration, which is a flow of higher thoughts from the real self that fertilize all levels of the mind in a positive and empowering way. Inspiration enriches his sense of creativity and ingenuity, which can bring him much happiness and fulfillment because of the real achievements he can be a part of. Through the intellect, he can receive guidance at all his crossroads from his real self, the all-knowing, the one that he was told about before birth, the one that would be ever present. So he can now live a life guided by the master and not the mischievous slave. Through the intellect, he can live with much broader awareness that enables him to see the extraordinary in the ordinary, to see the pearl in its lifeless shell, and unveil the beauties of this world that can bring him much happiness and fulfillment. His intellect channels his inner voice and power of intuition, all of which can guide him to remain on the path of light and not the darkness of the mind. Since this is a university that is hallmarked by problems, his intellect becomes a powerful source of solutions to these problems. He can navigate through them and learn important lessons from them, rather than succumbing to them and letting them drag him down. We have done several interesting webinars on the intellect, and I do recommend you revisit some of the recordings. I've gone into intellect into quite a lot of depth, so please do revisit it, because one of the ways that we regain our freedom, true freedom, is through the intellect. And we have to work with it, we have to live with it, we have to draw from it. So it's a very good time to revisit those webinars. Next, Drop has been graced with the power of hope. And this hope comes from the deep connection with his real self, his creator. It is a very, very powerful force that can enable Drop to even survive the harshest of journeys in the desert without water. And so, the first thing the mind does is try and destroy this hope by showing him only the dark, negative, and disappointing parts of each experience, making him cynical and finally hopeless. So the power of hope is a great force that Drop has constant access to, and living with his intellect in charge of his mind, because when his intellect is in charge of the mind, he has full access to his power of hope. It enables his hope to become even more powerful because he is now able to see the positive side of everything, a very empowering state to be in. Next, here's the power of positive thought. Remember the story of President Obama. He used the power of yes, we can, instead of no, we can't, to pull off miracles that led him to becoming one of the most powerful people in the world. Drop has to be careful about his vocabulary, because one's vocabulary always reflects one's thoughts and vice versa. Negative vocabulary kills freedom. Positive vocabulary creates freedom. So the power of positive thought and positive vocabulary makes us unstoppable. We can achieve all the happiness and fulfillment we seek through it, and we can all start using it starting now. Look at where we are plagued with these negative vocabulary and negative thoughts and cynicism. Get rid of them. Look at life with a fresh eye, with fresh power, with fresh thoughts, where everything is possible, nothing is impossible. And drop the word can't from your vocabulary, now and for eternity. Next, his eternal spiritual being is ever present in his journey through this illusionary world of contrasts. His mind will try to cause him to forget the very existence of this powerful dimension of his being. But drop can uphold and revive this power. How? Number one, through regular prayer that reminds him of his higher state of being and allows him to engage with it, bringing light and peace to his being, because when he sits for prayer, he sets aside all the worldly noise and nonsense and focuses on his higher state of being. So that's one very powerful tool he has. Secondly, through governing his actions and living life in accordance with the makeup of his real self, such as kindness, empathy, compassion, generosity, love, and more. So if his actions are based on his real self, that's another way he is completely open to sail through and keep in touch with his spiritual self. Spiritual self doesn't just come from prayer to connection, it also comes from action. So Drop's actions and thoughts are a crucial aspect of nurturing his spiritual being. Then there is meditation, and we all know about meditation, where when we sit in meditation, we set aside all our worldly thoughts, all the noise, all the negativity. We basically put the mind on one side and we focus on the higher aspects of ourselves. And through meditation, we are able to maintain good and solid connection with our spiritual being. And meditation comes from waking up every day and meditating, but it also comes from being in meditative thought during the day. When you're walking in a garden, stop and look at that flower. Focus on it. That too is a form of meditation. When you watch a river flowing and you hear its sounds, let its sounds fill your being. That is a form of meditation. It is a way where you drown away all the challenges your mind is going to throw at you, all the contrasts that you've signed up for. For those moments of meditation, they are gone. What are you left with? Peace, happiness, and a linkage to your higher self. And if you are blessed, you actually experience the light of your Creator. And so Drop has all this available to him in his journey. And hopefully he will find teachings that will guide him in that direction. So my dear friend, through Drop's journey, we viewed from 35,000 feet above. We now have had a chance to look at life and freedom from a wider lens. We have learned that life here is a university course. We have explored the 4 key hallmarks of this university: contrasts, problems, unveiling the ordinary to reveal the beauties of the extraordinary, and living with your true self in a world of illusions. These are the 4 hallmarks, and there are more. We have recognized that through power of thought, we can turn negative to positive to unleash our true potential, like switching can't to can, as I mentioned the example of President Obama, or impossible to possible, which took man to moon, and more. We have learned that we have potent tools such as our intellect and our eternal spiritual body, through which we can turn our lives around and get out of the cages that bring us down and rob us of our freedom and depress us in this world of total dominance by a very dangerous and mischievous mind. And finally, look at Drop's name. He is a drop of the all-powerful ocean infinite. Each one of us is a drop of this all-powerful ocean. You can never destroy a droplet, no matter what you do. All it will do is keep living forever in different forms, like water, to ice, to vapor, and if you even hit it with powerful waves, still it's present in molecules. So drop is eternal, as are we all. So the world and this university of contrasts and challenges can never destroy us, because we are all like drop, eternal. And while we are here, let us enjoy our journey with true freedom. That's the key.